friend. Amen.
Amen. Look on your phone. Just see what you're seeing.
Hey, Lauren, there you are. Welcome. It's here. It's finally here. It's release day. Hey, I've got this for you. I've been preparing.
Oh my word.
I've got extras. I've been like so excited about this release, Live in Love, and it's finally here. How are you feeling about that?
I'm excited. I feel like I didn't sleep a whole lot last night, but
Really?
I woke up excited, and everybody has been so kind, and my friends and family, I feel like flowers just keep getting sent to my house, and Thomas Rhett's been like monitoring things. I don't really get on socials very much, but he's been getting on today, and he's reading me comments, and everybody's been so sweet, and it's been a really good day. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, I am so delighted to be with you. And for everybody logging in, I'm Bob Goff. I'm just so happy to be talking about Live in Love. And I can tell you, you won't say this, but this book is tearing it up. Number 11, last time I looked, out of 7 million books. And number 1 in like everything. So congratulations. I know you didn't set out to write a book, but I know it's a lot of hard work. Why did you write Live in Love?
I ended up doing this book because I thought I was in a place where I had a lot of eyeballs watching me and watching my husband and our life. And so many people, I would get comments all the time about our perfect marriage and how they want our life, and with kids, or just the career that Thomas Rhett has, or how he writes songs and sings them about me. Just all the things that they, from the outside looking in, they see us having this very perfect life. And I love my life. I love my marriage. I love my kids. I love the things we get to do together. And like we have such a sweet and very blessed life. But we are not perfect by any means. And, we argue just like every couple does. Our kids are not perfect. They have, better days and not so good days. And, I think at times we still feel alone, and we still feel like sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. I mean, that's a constant battle that I think every human heart has to consciously fight against. And so writing this book is kind of my way of showing exactly who I am from when I was little to how I was raised to why I believe the things that I do and how the Lord has continued to show up for me in my life. And the risks that we took, the decisions we made that were good, some of them that were bad, just kind of laying it all out there so that people could see it doesn't matter who you are. Every human heart wants to feel love and wants to love and wants to be known, and does struggle with heartache and all of the above. And so this was kind of my way of getting to share that with whoever wanted to know.
It's great because people are wondering kind of what's going on behind the curtain. And in this beautiful book, you kind of pull the curtain back and you're just authentic. And I've experienced you in every different facet of life to be a very authentic person. And this book is one of those ones that you just feel like you're talking to a friend over coffee.
Oh, thanks, Bob.
Tell me about this, when you mentioned this perfect couple, the idea that people have an idea of who you and Thomas Rhett are. Tell me about the relationship and why you felt like it was important to share about it in Live in Love.
I think it's so easy to feel like we live in a Instagram filtered world where you just see the good, and it's nice to see a lot of good, but also I think when you see what seems to be perfection over and over and over, it starts to make you feel lonely or that you don't have fill in the blank. And I think that us being able to show that we don't have everything figured out, we don't do it right every time, we try to be better, we try to do better, we try to love each other better and communicate better, but that doesn't mean that we're perfect by any means. And I think in a world that can feel so lonely and in such a filtered world, it's nice for someone to be real and say like, hey, yeah, we struggle with the same things you do, and you're not alone. And whatever you may be feeling in that moment of, if I had a husband, I'd be happy. If I had kids, I'd be happy. If I had more money, I'd be happy. If I could lose 30 pounds, I'd be happy. Whatever what you think your happiness is, whatever that you're looking for, I think it's not true. It's not attainable. I think you find your happiness where you are and who you're with. And when that next chapter of your life is ready to start, then you move on to the next thing, and then you find your happiness there too. And that's not to say that you're not going to have the valleys, the days in the valley where you feel alone and like it's not a happy chapter, but that's life, and we live in a broken world. But there, it's a roller coaster. We're all on this roller coaster that just kind of got your ups and your downs.
I love the saying down in the South, be where your feet are.
That's right.
That's a great,
That's right.
I think I've heard you say that before, but to just actually be fully present. And there's a difference between change and growth. So like you can change a circumstance, you can change a house, a relationship, whatever. But one of the things that I think Live in Love is about growth. And with growth comes some struggle. Was that hard for you to talk about the struggles, or did that come easy for you?
I think it was pretty easy, honestly. I think that now that the book is out today, there are parts that I'm like, oh man, everybody's going to be reading that. But I think it's so good to talk about the struggles, because when you're vulnerable, then it kind of excuses everyone else and opens up that door for other people to be vulnerable and share their hearts and be honest.
That is so true. You just set the boundaries and you just said we can talk about this stuff. But what comes with that can be a little bit of a vulnerability hangover on release day. You just feel like, oh my gosh. But I know you've got a family and a circle of friends who are just nuts about you. I'm one of them. And we're just so glad that you took the risk. I want for the people that are listening to go back to when you were a child, like you had these childhood dreams. And so some of them come true and some don't. Tell us about some of your childhood dreams, which ones came true, which ones didn't, and how you feel about it.
So I think when I was younger, envisioning my life way down the road, I saw myself traveling a lot. I wanted to see the world. That was one of my biggest hopes. But I think as a child, I didn't think that that was attainable for whatever reason. And in my little mind, I thought that probably won't happen. But what I think will happen is that I will have a family and we'll live in a little neighborhood with neighbors all around us. And my husband will have a 9 to 5 job and will put the kids to bed every night together. And we will, kind of grow up the way I did, really frugal, doing the camping trips. We used to go on camping trips instead of like big beach trips because it helped to save money. And my life was so sweet when I was younger, but we didn't have just a ton. We had everything we needed, but we lived a life where we were outside from sun up to sundown. We were just outside playing in nature. And that's kind of how I saw my life going. So fast forward, I have an amazing family. I have precious, precious children. The dream I didn't think was going to happen was the travel. And now I travel across the world, even multiple times in a year. I have amazing friendships on the other side of the world. And my daughter, one of my daughters is from the other side of the world. So the travel dream, God just blew straight out of the water. And the things that I thought I would have that I don't are the husband having the 9 to 5 job where he's home every night, because Thomas Rhett is gone a lot, not in 2020, but most every other year he's gone. Yeah. And I think the idea of living in a really small neighborhood isn't really something that we are doing now. I think we kind of got to a point where we wanted to have a little bit more privacy just for our little children. And so that's a little bit different. But you know what? I look back on the dreams that I had and I look now and I see the places where the Lord has just filled those spots in my heart, the desires that I truly wanted and I feel like my heart needed. He has given me those and so much more. And those dreams look a little bit different, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, I've had a lot of mountaintop days and a lot of days deep in the valley to get to where we are, but it's so sweet. And all the days deep in the valleys have really shaped me, who I am, and have grown my faith immensely. And so I'm thankful, as hard as they were, I'm so thankful for those days too.
And I'm glad that you took the emotional risk to talk about that in the pages, because you could have skipped by some of those things, but instead it's kind of like the difference between snorkeling and scuba diving.
Right.
You could have snorkeled and talked about all the fish you saw from down below and how pretty it was, but you actually said, let's go see if we can find some treasure in the bottom of maybe this, what felt like a sunken dream or a sunken ship. Tell us about your mom. I know you're really close to her and she's been at your side at really difficult times, at hard times. Tell us a little bit about her, because I know your family is really important to you.
Yeah, my mom is the most incredible mother in the entire world. I think growing up, I wanted to be just like her. And now that I'm a mom, I realize how hard being a mom is. I mean, it is one of the most incredible experiences. I mean, it makes me come to life. It makes my heart come to life. Like I love everything about being a mom, but it is extremely hard and it's very sacrificial. I just feel like you are constantly putting your needs behind, and you're constantly, whatever it is your children need, those needs come first ahead of you. And when I realized how much she did for us and how many kids we would have over at our house because we just wanted to play all the time, and she was just constantly running around with us and giving us a life that was so sweet and so happy. We have the best memories, but she truly just lived a life of love where she just poured love into every child that was at our house, every parent that came around, every woman we met in the grocery store. You name it, my mom loved them well. And so much of her living that out, I saw and learned, and which is where a lot of, the spirit of this book comes from, is her teaching us how to love well, how to love people well, how to love animals well, the earth. I mean, like everything. She just loves so well, and I attribute the seed of that and grow in the Lord, growing that throughout my life, how to love well. She kind of planted and helped to foster that seed. And I look up to her so much for that, and try so hard to be even just half the mom that she was to me. She is a very, very special person.
I think there was a time in Uganda where you were feeling a little stuck. Tell us, did your mom come over?
Yeah, so in our adoption with Willa Gray, Thomas Rhett was touring, and so there was a lot of times where I would be in Uganda because we had to foster her for a year in Uganda. And so I would come back for doctor checkups because I was pregnant with Ada James, and then would go back and then stay for weeks at a time, and then come back for a little bit and then go back for more weeks. And when he could come, he would, but he had tour. And so he wasn't there for quite a bit of it. And my mom didn't even think twice. And she was like, I'll go get my shots. I'll get my passport updated. I'll do all the things I need to do. I will be there. You just tell me when you need me and I'm there. And she was one of my biggest rocks during that time. And she helped to bring my baby home.
Yeah, I remember one of the first conversations we had, I was telling you about explaining to my daughter what love was and telling her, you go ask every boy before he takes you to the prom, tell me your definition of love. And it was sacrifice and commitment. It isn't just a bunch of butterflies, it's showing up. And so I love to see how you're then living that out, like you're reflecting that in your family. And for all the moms listening and moms that want to be moms, and you might have that in your future, I'm just telling you, sacrifice and commitment. And that's one of the things that I've loved about the book, is that you painted a really vivid picture of what that looks like. I want to switch for a second to Thomas Rhett. And you guys, didn't he join the posse about second grade?
He did.
Guys, were you a thing? Were you like, is touching muse a thing back then in second grade, or?
Well, not for me. I was too busy trying to see if I could jump highest off the swing set against the other boys. That was my interaction with boys at that time. But him and I think he came, in little, like first or second grade, but then we didn't get to be really good friends till about middle school. And then, the rest is history. We've been in each other's lives ever since, and tried to date for a second in high school. It didn't work out so well, but we stayed really close friends. And then
Let me ask you, how did you make that work? Like when you were, I think by your sophomore year, you said, let's tap the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
And then said like, nah, let's continue on in this beautiful friendship. And so tell me about that, because I think there's a lot of people that have, whether it's a romantic relationship or just a relationship. How did you make that one work?
Every boy that I dated growing up in high school, college, throughout, all of those relationships for me started off as friendships. And to me, personally, that's the best way to start a romantic relationship, just because for me, if I can't be friends with you, there's really no need to go any further. Like, I need a best friend. I want somebody that I can be goofy with and spontaneous, and somebody that I can just live life with to the fullest, and then have the romantic side too. So for me, when the breakups would happen, it was so hard for me to lose that relationship. So of course we gave it a grace period. I mean, there's a period where you got to give it some time and some space for it to cool off. But the second it cooled off and we were both kind of in an okay spot, I was ready to get back in there and like all hugs and like, who are you dating now? And we should double date. And just because I just love those relationships. And it's so funny. My friends laugh at me all the time because they're like, it never fails at any of your parties, Halloween, Christmas, New Year's Eve, birthday parties, weddings, whatever it is, all your ex-boyfriends are there. And I'm like, I know, but they've got their wives with them, then their kids come to my kids' parties. And it's so sweet, because then for me, I don't have to lose that relationship. I think that's the most grieving part of a breakup sometimes for people, is just the loss of that friendship or relationship. And I think there are definitely times where that relationship should be severed, if it wasn't safe or whatever it may have happened. But I think it's good to try to keep the relationships healthy. And if you're not ready to lose the relationship in a friendly way, then in my opinion, why should you?
Yeah, well, I think you've lived that out, even in your friendship, like post-marriage. You guys are still playing with each other, and you'll have some good days, have a couple bad days, and you said, let's not just change it, let's grow it. I want to switch gears a little bit. There's a video out, and it's Die a Happy Man. And tell me about that. I mean, millions of people have seen this thing. Did you have any kind of reluctance in being part of the video?
For sure. So when Die Happy Man came out, like what year was that? 2015? I don't even know.
Yeah,
14?
as you get older, you'll say just the other day.
Yeah, right, just the other day. His career was that's when it started to take off, and he was looking for different people to be in the video, and he was like, you know what, I wrote this song for you. He was like, if I have to be in this video, I want you to be in it with me. This is about me and you. He was like, I'm not going to have another girl in the video. I don't want it to be about somebody else. I want it to be me and you. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, this is not my vibe, getting into the spotlight, getting into a video. I don't want that many people looking at me. And he talked me into it, because he was like, but we're going to go to Hawaii and shoot this amazing video. We should do it. And after a long time of trying to talk me into it, he finally did. And I'm so glad that we have the video now, because I love looking back at it and seeing us kind of like when we were young and married and felt so free. We didn't really have any strings attached. And so I felt like just had this free little life. And it's a sweet time to look back on. So I'm glad I have the videos now. But that is really what threw me into more of the spotlight with him. And that's when my anxiety really started to catch up with me, because
interesting. So all of a sudden it's like you're out there, and that vulnerability, like, oh my goodness.
I was not comfortable with it at all, because since I have known him, he was always the star in the school plays. He always won the talent shows, wanted to be front and center for everything. And for me, I was the girl that was like, give me one line. I'll be the tree in the back. I don't want to be up front. And so we're very different in that sense. And even things like this, where I know I have a lot of people watching me and looking at me, like right now with all of y'all that I can't see your faces, but I know you're watching me. this gives me so much anxiety. Like, this is just not, it's something that I'm definitely not comfortable with, but it's clearly where the Lord has placed me for now in my life. So it's something that I'm learning to be better at. But long story short, I did not want to be in that video. And what happened since the video is why I didn't want to be in the video.
Yeah. One of the interesting things, when we get back to the definition of love, it's sacrifice and commitment. And so for you, it's meant some sacrifice. If you want to be behind the scenes, I'm married to sweet Maria Goff. She's like seeing a
Yes.
unicorn.
Yes.
You've been able to see her, but not many people have seen
Yes.
her.
Yes.
Like, oh, heck no. I wanna explore your travels, then took you over to Haiti in 2015 with 147 million orphans. Tell us about the experience. How did it transform you? It started a progression of things in your life that are still unfolding. So tell us about that.
So it was a time when like I was saying, I think Die Happy Man had just really kind of hit its peak, or was starting to, and his career was taking off. So I was looking at his career going like, wow, his dreams are just coming true right in front of our eyes, and it's incredible, and he's so happy. But then it really was a time where I was struggling to find my purpose. And not that I don't want to be his supportive wife, because I do, I love it, but I knew that there was something else for me, Lauren, personally, to do something. I just knew that the Lord had a path for me, and it's what my heart desires too, and what things that I'm good at. And so I had a friend introduce me to someone who is now my very best friend, but she was a co-founder of the organization 147 Million Orphans. And they were taking a trip to Haiti for to do like clinical medical work. And we went, and I had not met anybody on this trip before I left. And it was kind of one of those moments where I felt like the Lord had just put that open door right in front of me. And he just was like, this is the door I want you to walk through. And I couldn't see anything on the other side. And it was extremely uncertain for me, and also out of my comfort zone. But I feel like over time, when he's opened those doors, and even if I can't see what's on the other side, it's always been the best decision just to walk through it. And so I did. And so I remember the first day on the ground there, it was like, I describe it as when people say they meet somebody and they know like it's love at first sight, like the second you meet eyes. For me, like seeing those children and being able to be with them and help them medically and just to love on them, it was like love at first sight. And I remember thinking, if I can't do this for the rest of my life, it's like air for me. Like I feel like I will die if I can't serve and love on these children. And so it just, without even thinking into the future at all, I looked at Suzanne at the end of the trip and I told her, I said, wherever you go, I want to go. When you book a flight, book me one too. I'll be right next to you. And she was like, are you sure? Like, this looks a lot different than fine dining and red carpets. And I was like, and I am here for it. Like, you just tell me what's up and I'm there. And truly, ever since, when she's booked a trip, I've gone with her. And a couple of trips later, we went to Uganda for the first time. And that's when I met Willa Gray.
Well, about that, when, like, all of a sudden we just went from Haiti and now we're in Uganda, because apparently she phoned and you said, get me a center seat.
That's
and
right.
Now you're in Uganda. Tell us the moment you met Willa Gray and how did you feel? Like, what was going on?
We had walked into the children's home for the first time, and it was just like an ocean of children just ran up to us and were hugging us all over and were so excited to see us. And I just remember my heart, I was just like, oh my goodness, the joy these sweet children have it's unbelievable. And it was so amazing getting to meet the new children, and just getting to see Africa for the first time was so incredible for me. But as the day went on, the children kind of went back and were playing on the playground or doing schoolwork or whatever it was. And we were going into one of the offices, and they had just gotten a bunch of new little babies in the children's home, like 3 or 4. And as we were going into one of the offices, Willa Gray was laying on one of the cement floors, just covered in red dirt, and she was laying on her belly, kind of like in that red dirt. And I remember walking past her and thinking like, oh my goodness, there's a baby just lying down having tummy time in the African red dirt. And nobody was holding her at the time. And I remember thinking, can I pick her up? Like, if this was in America, first of all, you wouldn't see this. Second of all, do I need to ask somebody if I can hold her? Like, who's in charge of her? It was this weird, almost like my heart was trying to maybe shield itself or something from her. Like, I was so drawn to her, but at the same time, I was so fearful to get too close. And later, looking back, I realized that, there was so much more in play in that moment, I think, than I realized. But toward the end of that week, I got really, really close to her, and I just couldn't put her down. And it was just like the second she touched my heart, it's like our hearts were sewn together or something. And I remember I called Thomas Rhett one night and I said, we have to find her forever home. Like, I know in my heart that this children's home is not her future. And we know so many friends who want to adopt and are looking to start a family, and adoption is the route they want to go. And I was like, we're going to find her forever home. And on the phone that night, without hesitating, he said, we'll do it. We'll bring her home. And I was just like, oh my word.
Bertha forever home.
That's right. It was a scary moment for me, for sure. But oh my goodness, so sweet.
Back to sacrifice and commitment. I hope if you're listening, there'll be a courageous move that you might want to make in your life. There might be something that either you have read in Live and Love, or that you've just been thinking about by listening to Lauren, but that you'll just make that courageous move, because that's like, we're the ones, we're the forever home. That's sacrifice and commitment. I want to talk to you about the back end of that. Now you're a mom at home raising littles. Thomas Rhett is out on the road, and he's doing an awesome job being a dad and husband. But there's a lot of time that you're alone. And I think loneliness is something that connects with a lot of people right now, particularly in this last 6 months. What's your perspectives? What's encouragement can you give to the young families, whether it's men or women, in dealing with loneliness?
But loneliness is something that I think everybody struggles with, whether you're willing to talk about it or not. And it comes in so many different forms. But it can really creep into your heart and just kind of take over if you don't bring it out of the darkness. I feel like for me, when I have moments where I start to feel lonely or whatever, I feel like maybe causing a little bit of darkness in my heart, like pulling it out of the darkness and bringing it into the light and speaking it to a friend or my husband in this scenario, bringing it from the darkness to the light, all of a sudden it doesn't seem so scary anymore, and it doesn't have the power that it felt like it once did. And for me, I felt so lonely right after I had my 2 oldest girls. Willa Gray had come home, and then 3 months later, Ada James was born. And I just didn't feel like myself. I feel like I had given so much of myself over the last year and some change to be in Uganda, while everyone else's life seemed to be moving on in the States, including my husband. You know, his career was still going, and that was very lonely and very, very hard on our marriage. And then when I came home, I was still pregnant. And then 3 months later had Ada James. And then I didn't, like, my body didn't feel the same. I didn't feel like the same Lauren. And everything in my world just flipped upside down. You know, a year and a half before, I was in the States living with Thomas Rhett, going on tour, doing whatever it was that we wanted to do. And then all of a sudden I was living in Uganda off and on. And then I got pregnant, and then I come back a year and a half later, and I'm a mom of 2 kids, and I almost don't recognize myself anymore. And so it was this moment where, like, the loneliness really I started to get angry and even resentful towards Thomas Rhett, because I felt like he had kind of taken off and his life just didn't seem to shift all that much. And I felt like mine was upside down. And so in that moment of loneliness, I said a lot of things to him that I regret, because I realized it was coming from such a broken place in me that it wasn't even really him. It was the things that I was dealing with that I felt so alone in. And but that can happen in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be someone becoming a new mom. It can be anything. But you have to be so careful what you let take root in your heart, because for me, that loneliness really brought out a lot of resentment and anger toward my husband. And our marriage, there was a really rocky period where we really had to kind of figure out a lot of things and kind of go like, okay, how do we want to tackle this? Like, we know we love each other. We know we want this to work out. We need to figure out how we can better communicate and how I can better communicate. I think a big part of my problem was pride. I wanted to pretend like everything was okay and that I could handle it and I was doing a good job and I didn't need help. And I absolutely did need help. I needed my husband. I needed to share those feelings with him, because over time it took root in my heart, and it turned into a really sad and dark place for our relationship that didn't have to be there.
One of the things it takes is a lot of courage to actually go back and figure out what the thing underneath the thing is. So the thing is, I'm a little on edge, but say, like, what's the thing underneath the thing, and sorting that stuff out. And I know we have a mutual friend that talks about saying the unsaid. And there's something beautiful. If you're listening and you're dealing with some of those issues of loneliness, go back and you got to see what it is. You have the courage to see what it is so you can understand it. Once you understand it, then you can do something about it. One of the reasons I like Live in Love is that you're willing to take that adventure with us. And that's a gutsy thing to do, but I feel like we're all like trying to navigate this uncertain world together. And this is a book that's going to help Sweet Maria and myself do some of that. I'll have my kids, it's going to be required reading for my kids to just say, you got to read this and get real. And then if you're listening, go write down some of the real stuff that's going on. Just write it, I'm lonely. And then find a friend that you can say, well, what's the thing under the thing? Like, what's going on? And then get some help. Sweet Maria and I have gone to counselors. We've asked for some help. We've gotten some great input from people to say, wow, what if you gave this a try? Well,
it's really hard, but it's really good.
It is. It's one of those things. I want not just change, I want growth.
Yeah.
If you just want to change your marriage, you can change a lot of marriages. You can have a lot of different names. But just say, instead, what I want to do is grow. I want to grow where I'm planted. And you need to like cultivate that a little bit and to say, this is a weed and this is not going to get me where I'm going.
Yeah.
I want to give some time for some people to ask their questions. And I know a whole bunch of people have. I've got a couple that have come in already. One is Erica Martinez. Thank you, Erica, for your question. What would you say your purpose as a public figure and author is now?
Oh, man. I just think right now for me, it's sharing my heart. I think I've kind of propped that door open a little bit by writing this book, but I think it's going to swing wide open once people start reading these stories. And just, I think, praying that I have the courage to keep being vulnerable and honest, because I think it'll be good for all of us to get to real parts of our heart. And some of those parts may still be really raw, but it's good for us to have that vulnerable time in our life, and to be able to work through things together and love on each other and speak truth into each other's lives. So that's kind of my goal now, is to be able to, even through this book, just kind of tell people, hey, sister, I have been there. I know how you feel, and you can do it, because I've done it, and I will love you through it, whatever that looks like, whether or not we're able to see each other in person. But I hope that I'm able to do that and help to open some of those doors for some other people in their life too.
There's a well-tread saying that you can only take people as far as you've gone yourself. And so this book says to me, you're going to take people a long way. And as you're reading the book and you're interacting with Lauren's stories, I just want you to be interacting with your story, to say, how can I get vulnerable? How can I take the next courageous step? Another question from Brittany Mullins. Thank you for this, Brittany. As she said, you said you wanted to write a kid's book, and are you still wanting to do that?
I think it would be fun to do a kid's book. I think right now, with what I have on my plate, I want to be very careful that I am giving my children the part of me that they need, and that they're first in my life. And I think with the book that's out now, we've got a lot going on, and it's all good things, but I don't know what will happen in the future. I think if things calm down a little bit and there's that opportunity, I think it would be really fun to do a children's book. But I don't know. We'll see. I've got some ideas if I do end up doing one. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Come on, we're hoping you will. I've got kind of a mashup of questions from Alexis and Victoria Cranford, and they wanted to know, what's your favorite part of the book, / like what's your favorite chapter in Live in Love?
My favorite chapter, I think, is the chapter, there's a couple about my early childhood, but there, when it talks about how I remember my early childhood, Camp Gregory, it's to me, that is such a sweet memory and such a special time of my life, of like innocence and just so much joy. And it, to me, I look back on it and it feels like a movie or something. Like it just felt to me like it was, I was so lucky to get to live that life. And so when I had that part of my story come to life on paper, even me just reading it back, I got chills just reading back my own words. So that's probably my favorite chapter.
We only have a chance for 2 more questions, so I'm going to ask them real quick. Caitlin Scott wanted to know, you do so much for Thomas Rhett and for your kids. What's one thing you do for yourself to keep your happiness?
I prioritize my girlfriends. I don't get to do it a ton, but I make sure that if they're all in town, I'm seeing them, or we plan dinners or whatever it may be, that. And then we also got a Peloton this year, and I love that thing.
Come on, you're like an infomercial for them, but you just get time. And if you're listening, what I'm hearing is a little self-care.
Yeah.
That be available to the people that you love if you're taking care of yourself. I'm going to ask you one last question. It's from Natalie Demergen, and she wanted to know, how do you keep yourself grounded when life gets so crazy? What a great last question. What do you think?
It is Jesus, hands down. Jesus and my community, my best friends and family, they won't let me get very far if I'm forgetting who I am and whose I am. So I think making sure that you've got that community around you that that loves you well and will love you well even in the hard times when you need to be called out, because we all do sometimes, and will speak that truth into your life. And then also somebody to speak against the lies that either you're telling yourself or maybe someone else is telling you. That has been so crucial and one of the biggest parts of my life.
Yeah. You know, and that's evident. I know one of the things that you will be known for, your like appearances and books and all that. You'll be remembered for your love. And Lauren, I just want to thank you, Thomas Rhett, the kids, for showing this love. It's sacrifice and commitment. Thanks for making the sacrifice that it took to write this terrific book. For those of you that are listening, thanks for dialing in. We got one last thing to do before we wrap it up, and it's an Able Crossbody Bag giveaway winner. And I'm going to mess this up. There it is. Check that out. I'm going to mess this up if I don't let right now Brandy Snyder know you're the one.
Yay!
Here it is. Come on, Brandy. I wish I should shoot off one more of these. There you go. Thanks for everybody who submitted the questions. Able is offering a special for everyone, and to get $20 off the purchase, use the code Live and Love at livefashionable.com, and 15% of all of this is going to go to Love One. So, hey, ads aside, I want to thank you for living a life filled with love. Thanks for the vulnerability. It's sacrificial. It takes a lot of commitment to do, but I want to thank you for not just for myself, but all of Team Goff. We love you guys. We respect you. We adore you. Keep living in love, girl. For all of you that tuned in, thank you for being part of this. Now get out there and go love somebody. All right, you guys. So long.
Thanks, Bob. Love y'all.
Love ya.